Our 2x2 segment is where we give tips and advice to entrepreneurs and business owners. Today, we're taking a different spin because there was just again over these past couple weeks, there's just been a lot going on, a lot happening in culture, in society, and people are paying attention to it. The one thing that a lot of people have been paying attention to over these past, I guess, week or so has been the interview heard around the world, Shannon Sharpe and Katt Williams on Club Shay. I think it's at 35 million views right now.
Oh, no way. Should be more.
Is it? I think it was
I got
something
you.
around
Let me
there.
take a look.
Let's see. Something around that number. I know when I saw it, it was very early in, day one, first 24 hours, it was at 5 or 7 million. Then it continues to go up from there. I think we're floating in the 30s right now, but coach is checking on that. But we're gonna talk about it from many different angles. One, just because there was a lot.
Oh, 7 days, 41 million.
Woo-wee. 41 million people have viewed, or 41 million views on this one podcast. People that have never heard of Katt Williams or Shannon Sharpe were watching this podcast. And because it's a cultural thing, we wanted to touch on it. There are some things that we can get from it and glean from it from a potential business or entrepreneurial perspective. But just give me your initial take and your initial thoughts, Coach, on kind of what you thought about that interview, what really kind of stood out at you. Was it stuff you already knew, stuff you didn't know? What was your take on it, man?
Well, the interview was definitely explosive. Let's say that right off the bat. Katt Williams came on there knowing what he was about to do and just unleashed. Um, a lot of people, two things. One, a lot of people are giving Shannon Sharpe a little bit of flack for not being a journalist, and I think that's part of the appeal for some of these folks to go on his show is because he's not a journalist, but he's having a conversation, an informed conversation, but a conversation with someone. And Katt Williams specifically stated, that you've made this a safe space for people to come tell the truth. Right. And that's why he was on there. So for me, one thing that really stuck out is that there is a space for you just the way you are, whether as an entrepreneur, whether you want to, you want to start a show, a YouTube show, your specific perspective, somebody is going to resonate, or the way that you do it, somebody is going to resonate with it. So a lot of you guys are watching this right now and you've been meaning to 2024, maybe hop online and start creating some content, share your expertise or your passion, go ahead and do it. You don't have to look like everyone else. You don't have to do it like everyone else is doing it. So Shannon Sharpe, former football player, holding this space. And now look how this thing has evolved. And guys, don't forget, this thing didn't come out of nowhere. He's been working on it for a while. Right? He's been working on it for a couple of years. He was building this when he was with Skip over at Undisputed. And it slowly came. His most popular interview before that was only like 10 mil.
Yeah.
Not only, but I mean, pretty big difference from 10 million in like, I believe about 8 months versus 41 million in 7 days. Yeah. Right. So it didn't happen overnight. Shannon Sharpe has been doing this for a while. He takes it seriously. And that's kind of one of my biggest takes. Last take here for me is I can't verify what Katt is saying, but when somebody speaks the way he spoke on that interview, they can back up something. Right? It can't all be false. And couple that with that all of these individuals responded, but none of them disputed the facts. I found that to be very interesting. You got Ludacris over here rapping. That's cool. We know you can rap, bro. But is he telling the truth or not? Right? You got Cedric the entertainer saying a joke that Katt claims, right? Why don't you just say it was your joke, bro? Right? Like it was, I thought that was hilarious. So clearly Katt Williams knows something. And ultimately, I learned a lot more about Katt Williams, and he did himself a favor for sure. Because 2024 is about to be a good year for him. And
Absolutely.
it's obviously about to be a good year for Shannon Sharp. And it will be a good year for you too if you take that step forward
Mm-hmm.
and do that thing that you've been thinking about forever but haven't executed on.
That's huge. That's huge. There's so many angles to take with this. There's so many angles. Again, just touching, we can touch on some of the more conspiracy gossip side of things, which a lot of the internet likes to run with, right? Who knows if what he says is true? Just like you said, though, bro, like someone that talks with that type of conviction, it's hard to dispute, right? But again, there are people that know how to talk with conviction and could be telling complete lies, and you wouldn't know,
Politicians.
right? Did we just say we're keeping politics out of this one today?
Yeah,
There
yeah,
we go.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's
You're right.
true.
You're right.
But
You're
it's
right.
true, right? Like there's people that can do that. But obviously there's definitely going to be some truth behind it, especially because people aren't coming out and saying anything. So his story is kind of what's going to run. But I want to take a completely different angle with it for the entrepreneurs, for the corporate athletes that listen to the show.
Let's do it.
Uh, from a business perspective, right? And Club Shay, he's the proprietor of it, right? He always says that at the beginning of it, meaning he owns this platform. I asked this question, I think off camera to you, was like, man, where does he go from here? With the athlete mind, with the mind of someone that's relatively competitive, right? Katt obviously came on and was talking about how competitive he is in the comedy world, obviously. But Shannon Sharp being a competitor, being a pro NFL, Pro Bowler, is he in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yeah. NFL Hall of Famer. I'm sure he has a level of competitiveness and a level of chip on his shoulder. And he just got 41 million views in 7 days. Where does he go from here? How do you top your best? How do you continue to get better? Is there now added pressure on him? Right? There's so much. And what do you do under that added pressure? I think we talked about this. Like, who can your next guest be? And I think he posted a list or something like that of like, Barack, Oprah, I don't know, was it MJ? It was only like four, five, six.
Kim Kardashian,
Yeah, Kim K. There's only like 4 or 5 people that can ever even potentially
LeBron.
Ron, right? 4 or 5 people that can really only get them to surpass that. And you know what happens when an athlete feels like they've hit their peak, their pinnacle, and they can't surpass it? It becomes frustrating. It becomes like this. I'm always chasing this thing, and I'm curious to see how he's going to react to that side of like, what if the next 3 guests only get 600,000? Is it just like, oh man, like I got to figure this out. I want to get back to this time. And again, for the corporate athletes that continue to listen to us, this is something that I really think is important to know. How do you come back after you've done well, after you've hit a peak or a milestone in your career or in your business? What happens one year when you make 7 figures in your business and the next year you make 300,000? Right? Like, how do you respond to that? And I think I'd be curious from a business and entrepreneurial athlete side of things, how he's going to respond to it. That's what
Yeah.
I would look at.
I think that's a great question. It's a piece, man. And just a piggyback off of that real quick, in a very small way, as content creators, which we create content, you look at, I think I have had a piece of content go viral on 3 different platforms.
Mm.
And quite honestly, it's good, but bad,
Yeah.
right? For a lot of the reasons you just stated. Um, as an entrepreneur, fine, I'll take the viral content, but there's also a lot of value in having steady growth over time. You building community being one of them, learning what works and what doesn't work. Because reproducing viral content is very, very difficult because you have no idea why everything else was doing like 1,000, 2,000, and all of a sudden this thing is doing 1 million. It's like, whoa, what happened? Like what clicked? Right. And do kind of chase that. And everything else is kind of like, oh, it's just 1,000. Yeah, bro, that's what you were getting before.
Right.
Just because you have one piece of content hit over 1 million. Now what? So I think, in a lot of ways, it's great, but also horrible for content creators and entrepreneurs. Don't underestimate. Don't look for that virality. Look for something that you can repeat. Right? If you're doing 1 million 1 year and 300,000 the next year, something went wrong. Like something is off. Right? I would rather have things progressively move towards viral.
Steady growth.
If you had to pick. And I'm not saying viral is bad, but if you don't have the buckets in place as an entrepreneur to catch that wave, and then after that you try to chase it more, it can be a frustrating place to be.
For sure. I can even see it like where even the producers of the show could be like, oh, let's get this person on because, right? And before you know it, he's like the next,
You lost your core.
Yeah, right. Like Jerry Springer. Like you're just trying to get someone to give you that hit again of like, say some crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
Just say something crazy so I can get back. And it's like, yeah, well, that's not what the show was, right? And so I'm curious how he responds to it. I'm curious how the show goes from here. If the guests keep going up and the numbers keep going up, or if it gets back to what he was doing, because he had a great product before Katt, right?
Yep.
Like, had a great show, was very authentic, like you said, right? Created a safe space. So let's see what he's able to do.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Good Life.
If you enjoy this episode, please take a moment to subscribe and like our channel.
If you have any feedback or suggestions for future episodes, please leave us a comment down below.
If you're listening to the podcast audio version, we appreciate you just as much. Thank you for tuning into The Good Life show.
We believe that everyone has the potential to live their best life, and we hope our show helps you get that one step closer to achieving your goal.
If you know someone who would benefit from our show, please share it with them, and thank you for your continued support.
That's it for another week's episode here on The Good Life. We'll see you next week for another inspiring conversation.
Welcome to The Good Life.